was good.
Okay. As promised and as delivered, Joe's back. And
We have a good time.
yes, we're here, youtube.com/Bryan Fonseca. Also, catch that podcast. JoeDellera is going to be doing that very soon. We have a lot happening with Olympic men's basketball right now. A lot, a lot, a lot. Group A, Group B, Group C all have a lot of ramifications, all have played 2 games. So we felt like this was actually a good time to do this again because the last stage of group play is going to be this weekend. We already have some automatic qualifiers. This is important. We don't have seedings yet. That's not actually done. But we do have teams that will advance into the quarterfinals. Canada's punched the ticket already. France has punched the ticket already. Germany has punched the ticket already. And the United States. Probably because they're all 2-0.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that's really what it comes down to. And it's very simple to see it in Group B because, I mean, Japan and Brazil haven't won a game yet. They're going to play each other. We're going to get into that. So, brought Joe back. We're going to look at sort of all the scenarios here for the rest of group play, how this could look in the quarterfinals. And we won't do this for an hour like we did last time, although we had a lot more to get into. First of all, just real quick, just general observations from this. Like, just now that we've actually seen some basketball and actually seen some teams play, have you sort of wavered on some things? Because I know I'm going back and forth on a lot. A
Yeah,
lot.
I think the biggest thing that I feel like I got wrong is France. Like France is the most uncomfortable 2-0 that I've ever seen. I think. Like I'm like I want to sell my shares. Like I'm like I hate everything about this. So I think that's really the biggest shock to me. And then Canada has been good. And I'm a little like, I'm a little surprised that Spain beat Greece, but that honestly could have gone either way. So I feel like for the most part, we kind of came in about right with what we were doing, but like Japan has really given teams a lot of difficulty. Brazil has been tough, and South Sudan looks pretty good actually. So it's been a pretty fun tournament so far.
Betting wise, there's a lot of fun shit to get into, and just overall basketball analysis wise,
Yeah.
which I've been trying to do my best on Twitter, just like the macro portions of it because we're still in group play, and the women's tournament too, which not neglecting, just there hasn't been as much betting wise in particular, but we've seen now a couple of upsets with Nigeria in particular beating Australia, which
Yeah.
was ridiculous. And then Serbia just smacking China and putting China, who looked like they could win the group, in a must-win situation where they have to play Puerto Rico, who nearly beat uh, Spain today, and then nearly beat Serbia in the first game, despite, and I know this because I watch this team very closely, they're kind of surprisingly hanging with these teams just because of the grit, how hard they play. But this is why I say this is closer to March Madness than the NBA playoffs. Okay.
Yep.
So Group B, here's where we are. Canada's first, they're 2-0, plus 17-point differential. Australia, Spain, both 1-1. Australia gets the nod there for second place as of this recording. They're +2. Spain is -5. Greece is 0-2, -14. Greece is not eliminated, but they have to beat Australia to have any chance at advancing.
Yeah.
Australia has every incentive to play hard and win this game. And you also have Spain versus Canada, which Canada wants to go undefeated in group. This is going to be a tough one for them, though. As far as game times, if you're on the East Coast, Greece and Australia, 7:30 a.m. That's going to be on August 2nd, so that's Friday morning at 7:30. And Canada, Spain, that's at 11:15 on Friday morning. I like Australia in their matchup with Greece, but I'm a little nervous about it, even though -4.5, 5.5 is sort of the range, just because we're going to get a desperate Greece team. We're going to get an equally desperate, I don't know about equally desperate, but a desperate Australia team. And with Spain, Canada, I don't know. We talked about this earlier. I was like Spain +9.5. And in terms of the basketball piece of it, there's part of me that is like, listen, Spain is not the superpower Spain, but they're still good. So
Dude,
I kind of don't know.
it's really tough because I think Spain is just they're so fundamentally sound that they kind of have created a lot of problems for teams just because they're fundamentally sound. They make the right decisions. They're really well coached, and I think it's one of the things that you don't always see at the international level with some of these teams. Canada is obviously great, and when you watch the game that they had against Australia, because we both liked Australia. Australia, by the way, is not dead to win the group yet. They still have an outside chance, obviously, if Spain can pull off an upset. But for me, when I was watching the Canada-Australia game, Canada just made some fucking tough shots, man. I was like, man, they really made some crazy shots. And that was, Shea got in foul trouble and they got themselves out of it. Like they could have really kind of folded. They didn't. So that does show a little bit of tenacity. But I think when I look at these couple games in this group, I do like Australia. I think that Australia is one of those teams that we were both high on, and Greece at the same time. They're not, I don't think they're technically eliminated yet, but they
No,
may
they're
as
not.
well be eliminated. It's kind of one of those things it's highly unlikely that they're going to be able to advance. But it's possible. They're going to certainly try. I just think that it's definitely going to be a tough matchup. We've kind of seen where Greece is at. I don't think they have really much beyond Giannis. What do you think?
I'll say this in this group in particular, I don't think there's an outcome that could surprise me. And by the way, all the games have been as close as we thought they would be. Like,
Yeah.
yes, we've had a couple of double digit outings, but barely, right?
Yeah.
Canada beat Australia by 10, but that was the game that just kind of got away from Australia late. It was very competitive. And at different points early on, specifically, it looked like Canada could win this. And then our colleague at Action Network, Brandon Anderson, was like, hey, the better team lost because Canada's, he said bad shooters. I'll say streaky shooters.
Yeah.
We're on the good side of a hot streak. Collectively, Lou Dort, RJ Barrett, Dylan Brooks, 7 of 14 from three. It's
That'll
not going to
do it.
happen. Not
Yeah.
going to happen that often.
It helps that the 3-point line's closer.
Yes. Canada, to their credit, also, and those three guys were a big part of this. They defended really well.
Yeah.
And I felt like the athleticism was going to be a problem for Australia in that particular matchup. That said, I think Greece, there's a pathway to Greece winning this, but I have a much easier time seeing Australia actually come through. Again, they're favored, at least as of this recording. And when I already hit this one, -4.5. We'll see. I was shitty today. I've had a couple really good days in the Olympics. Today I was dog shit. It happens.
It happens.
This is a marathon, right?
Yeah.
But the point of it is Greece has lost both games by 7+ points. But 7 points exactly, 7 points each. So they've been extremely competitive against Canada and against Spain. But just hasn't quite been enough. But Group A, it's also entirely possible and likely, perhaps in this group, that 3 teams move on, because 3 teams have to move on from 2 groups. And we said from the beginning, and this is how it looked, and all the games have been close, so this is actually helpful. 3 teams from this group will likely move on to the knockout stage. Canada's already in, and it's just a matter of, is it going to be Australia and Spain, or Australia and, I guess it can't be Australia and Greece because they're playing each other.
Yeah.
It depends on how
it could be, right? Like if Greece wins by 1 or something like that, then
or
maybe.
if Canada just dog walks Spain.
Exactly. There's I think that's the only scenario, but that's a lot. They're asking for a lot there.
Yeah. You have a question for you from Robert Thompson, who beats you in a one-on-one.
That's funny. Rob, I think you might be a little too slow these days, brother.
Appreciate the
All
comment.
I know is we're gonna have a lot of missed layups.
God, I haven't played seriously in a while myself. I just box now at this point.
Hell yeah.
Box and lift weights. Okay. Formal predictions. I think three teams are gonna move on in this group, and I do think it's gonna be Canada, Australia, and Spain, just because I think Spain's gonna have a good enough point differential, and if you're picking Australia to beat Greece, you cannot, like, if you're 0-3, you can't move on. Like, that
Yeah,
just is what it is.
that's fair enough to me. I mean, Spain is minus 210 to make the quarterfinals right now, which I think is interesting, given those odds. Greece is plus 260. When we it kind of does make a little bit of sense. Like when we look at what the odds are, obviously, you do need like a number of different things happening here. But I think like if you like that, like you can, because it's basically a parlay. Like it's plus 236 if you parlay the Greece and Canada money lines, which is about like the plus 260. I guess maybe there's like an extra out there. That's basically what you need. But I guess it's possible that Brazil or Japan like beats. I guess Brazil would have to beat Japan. Either
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
like one of those teams beats the shit out of each other, and then you could get jumped one way or the other. So tough scenario there. I think you're better off like just line shop it. But I think that you're right. Spain probably gets it done here. Just at least stay close. They've played these teams so competitively, and Canada, like, do they like? I don't know how much they're going to really try to run up the score. We already know that they clinched a quarterfinals berth. It could wind up being like maybe a closer game, even if Canada's ahead.
Yeah. But I think we're both in lockstep there, so we could just move on. So let's just say, for all intents and purposes, 3 teams move on from that group, because that's been how it's looked the entire time and was going to be the case. Like when I sort of laid this out earlier, I was like, hey, 3 teams need to move on from 2 groups. This is going to be one of them. Now it gets fun because Group B, and we have a question about this already, but Group B, that's Germany, France, Japan, Brazil. Germany's moving on. France is moving on. They're both 2-0, but they're going to play each other on Saturday or Friday. No, that's Friday. The Group C is the finish on Saturday, which there's a lot there. But we're going to get to that in a second. There was a comment here about France that I'm going to pull up here. Philip Pox up. I think that's how you pronounce that. French coaching staff makes decisions that doesn't make sense. Kenny Atkinson's on that coaching staff, who I really like, but he's not the head coach, so I won't.
Yeah, he's not making. We know he's not making the calls. We know he's not making the calls, bro.
I'll tell
Like
you, the one
Kenny
call he
Atkinson's
did
the
make.
king. He's the king of double big.
Yeah. One Kenny Atkinson call that did happen probably was that Jared Allen extension that came out today. But
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a nice extension for Jared Allen. Plus, even if they want to flip him as a trade piece, solid scenario there for him.
Kenny loves him. I could tell you people that. All right, so we have Germany versus France, Japan versus Brazil. This group is the most straightforward because it's like, the 2 teams moving on, and that the winner is going to have a chance. But I will mention point differential real quick. Germany is plus 33. They're first. France is plus 16, but they're both 2-0. So the winner of that's just going to win the group, and whoever loses will be in second place. Germany right now is a slight favorite. We actually both really wanted Germany, and then they came out as favorites, and we were like, okay.
We were not happy.
Now it's up to 3.5. It was like 1.5, I think, when it opened. Japan is minus 24 and Brazil is minus 25, but the winner is going to have the chance to move on. It's going to depend by how much too, because we have to see what happens in Group C, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You're not getting me off of Brazil for this.
Yeah,
you're just not. But tell me how you feel about first that game and then Germany, France.
So I think that Japan has been really, really, really pesky. The problem is Brazil has also been like really, really, really pesky. Japan, we've seen them do some interesting things. Like one of the things was like they followed Andreas Obst, like they glued him. Like I can say it, but like they were on him like white on rice. Like like they were all over him. They were not giving him any room to breathe, right? And I think that that's something like they really are scheming. Like they're trying to take away like certain things. Like they're trying to do their best to be a nuisance. When they came out against in their last game, they straight up ran 5 out. They had nobody within the perimeter. So I think that they're a pesky team, but at the same time, I think Brazil has been around a little bit longer. I think that they're going to be a little bit of a tougher out for them. As tight as Japan has played some of these teams, they really do rely on a lot of like 3-point shooting variants. And Brazil has done a good job of like getting things into the mud. And when you get things into the mud, it kind of prevents that like fast, free flowing offense that Japan really wants to get into. So it's going to be, we'll know, I think right away, which team is going to be able to take, kind of the win here. Either way, it's going to be tough for, I think, either team to, it's a little bit tough for either team to really advance here. Brazil's plus 175 to make the quarterfinals, Japan plus 390 to make the quarterfinals. They each need a couple things going on in order to get there at this point. And then for France and Germany, France, with that point, like if the French coaching staff makes some decisions, like I agree with that. Like I don't understand why there's ever any minutes where you don't have one of Victor or Rudy on the court. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think that it just doesn't make any sense. And then I think the other problem is because I liked Victor's points last game, and the amount of times the French guards looked Rudy off was Wemby off was insane. Like, absolutely insane. I'm like, bro, like they don't have a guy over like 6'4" on the court right now, and they just wouldn't give Wemby the ball. So that's coaching to me, because in a way, like these guards, they obviously they want to be able to show out. Like this is exciting for them. It's fun. Like, and a lot of the mentality is like, I need to go score because that's what they do on their international teams. But when you have a guy like Wemby who is so much better than you are, just period, like there's no way around it. There needs to be some coughing of the ball up. Even Fournier was doing it too. And I've seen Fournier, you've seen Fournier do the same thing with like the Knicks, the Pistons, like whatever. And you're just like, dude, pass the ball, man. And that's what's happening, I think, in this scenario. So it's tough. It's a tough watch a little bit with France. Like there's just no like on court leadership. And Wemby, I don't know if he doesn't have the respect of the teammates enough or like what it is. Right. Like, I don't know if that's like the right way to put it, but like, they're just like, it's not your turn yet. It's our turn. And that's not really good for the team.
Wemby, by the way, is plus 110 to lead the team in assists. He's the favorite.
Hell yeah.
For the tournament.
We gave that one out.
That is, that still has some value on it, which is a little surprising to me. Not the main point. So Brazil versus Japan, I'll get to it in a second, because you went heavier on Germany and France, and we both wanted Germany. Do we still want Germany at -3?
I think that your better bet maybe is if you assume Germany wins, right? And you look at the way the standings kind of are right now, overall, Germany has a plus 33 point differential. That's second to the United States. You should assume, and you can correct me on this because I know you have the bracket understanding a little bit better. If Germany is the 2 seed, I think it means it's highly unlikely that they are in the same part of the bracket as the United States, really, right? Like they can't play them for a while.
If that's how they arrange the brackets, because sometimes you'll look at it and like FIBA or whoever, the IOC or whatever, just does something where it's like, wait, how is this team ahead of this team?
Yeah, because like I'm looking at the
theoretically, you should be correct.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the thing on FIBA and it says the quarterfinal draw has the best 2 teams in pot D. So, and then they're split. So then they play, like if you're in D1, you play G1, which is team 7 or 8. So like the worst teams. D2 plays G2, so the other like worst team. So the other basically wild card team. Then those teams, they play the winners of like F1 and E1 and E2 and F2. Like that's the way they kind of have it. So I think it means that you're on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
If Germany is on opposite sides of the bracket as the United States, which I think that they would be, you can bet on Germany to win a medal. You can bet Germany to win a medal at plus 130. And you can also bet silver medal plus 320, because that basically means that they lose to the United States. Or you can bet to make the finals at plus 240. So
Mm.
I think
What
if
about
that's the way,
what about gold medal? Just out of
don't make me
curiosity.
say it. 18-1. 18-1.
Oh shit! Listen. They've demonstrated that they have. I'm not gonna say the formula to beat the United States, but they have a formula that can at least get them into crunch time with a
Yeah.
few minutes to go.
Yeah. And United States Germany is 4-1. I don't think you should bet that though, because like it's just you're not getting good value on getting the United States in the gold medal game. Like it's
Right.
not really worth it. But
Right.
I do think that it's worth this look saying like, okay, if they are on the opposite side of the bracket, then there has to be value on them almost. Like there almost has to be value. So that's kind of what my thought process was with Germany.
I think that's really smart. Instead of doing it on this game, have more of a long-term tournament outlook.
And it's still alive even if they lost to France. Like you're
Correct.
not, it's not dead because we know that they're advancing. So
Right.
like obviously the bracket can kind of move around, right? But like if they win this game, it's almost a certainty that they're going to be on that other part of the bracket.
Mm-hmm. And to this comment here, actually, who asked about Canada, and again, this is entirely dependent on point differential and how much Germany would beat France in this scenario if Canada wins their game, and by how much in that scenario. But if they're the second and third teams, they would be on each other's bracket, but they would theoretically be away from the United States.
Yeah, it's definitely like a little funky, and like we're kind of working like in a little bit of like a nebulous thought process here. But I do think that like as long as you're not and honestly, I think Germany kind of matches up okay with Canada. Like if they ended up there, like
I
I think
agree.
Germany matches up well with honestly most of the
Everybody,
teams in the
everybody.
tournament. Yeah.
Hmm.
So the only guys that they don't really have a good answer for are like a Jokic and a Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid didn't play today. I don't know if anybody was watching.
He'll be back.
He'll be
He'll be
back.
back,
He'll be back.
but I don't know if
But
he's
either way,
starting, but he'll be back.
either way though, like those are the guys they don't really have an answer for. Canada doesn't have one of those guys. Australia doesn't have one of those guys. But I think like as long as you know they're just not in the US part of the bracket, these games like they could arguably be favored every game up until the final.
I think if you like Germany, that's how you do it. You just have a long-term outlook. You look at them to make semis, potentially medal, win silver, win gold. If you want, look, 18-1 is 18-1. They
Yeah,
won the FIBA World Championships last year. There's clearly been, I'm not saying because they won the World Cup that they're going to win the Olympic gold medal, but there's clearly some carryover from a confidence standpoint, from a play standpoint. Like going into the World Cup, they had the 8th shortest odds of winning it. They were projected to be a quarterfinals team.
yeah,
Like they were not expected to be somebody who won the entire damn thing, and not against Serbia, who was more of a favorite going into it. Like
yeah,
them winning was actually a little surprising because it was like USA, France, Canada was a sexy pick. Australia's got the experience, kind of like now, but Germany just kind of like punched people in the mouth and moved themselves into the mix and went 8
for
and 0.
sure.
You
Yeah,
know, so we haven't seen them lose a game in a while on an international, a game that counts on an international stage. So I mean, and here's my question about France, and this will actually lead me right into Brazil versus Japan. Is what is the French national team right now? I don't know if they haven't really peaked yet, like we haven't seen what we've expected, or this is what they are. Because against Brazil, there was some struggle. We've talked about this before, but Brazil kind of makes you do that. They beat
yeah,
Greece in a 2019 World Cup where they stifled Giannis, and it was a very tight game, low scoring one too. The total was like 157 or something along those lines. They beat Canada last year in the World Cup, where nobody broke 70 points. They beat Latvia, albeit in a different way, but they beat Latvia in Latvia earlier this month to qualify for the Olympics. And really, they just shot their doors off and just never looked back. So it was a different kind of Brazilian performance. But they hang in with these kind of teams at times. So they hung in there early on with France. And then the game against Germany, there was some struggle there at different points, and then Germany eventually pulled away. But it looked like, hey, could Brazil potentially, and I had said before, like if Brazil, who is not better than Germany, But if they stun Germany, it wouldn't have shocked me because I've seen how they play. They're just tough. They grind you out. They hang in there with every game. They're
Yeah.
kind of Miami Heat-ish. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like,
yeah.
they're
They
kind of
are. They
Miami
are.
Heat-ish. And then with Japan, who is the real Japanese team is what I'm trying to figure out. It's the team because we thought that they were probably the weakest team in this group, which is not to say they're a bad team. 12
Yeah,
teams.
12. There's only
12
teams.
teams out of 160. The
Yeah.
Cook Islands are dead last in basketball. They would kill to be in the Olympics, okay? Brazil, Japan, like these are two of the elite basketball teams. Everyone in the Olympics is elite. But Japan is, I thought on paper, and they haven't been so far, the weakest of the group. Puerto Rico's actually been the weakest so far.
Puerto Rico's been rough for you,
those
buddy.
Those are my guys, but oof, we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah.
But Japan lost to Germany by 20 and then all of a sudden pushes France to overtime and loses barely. Rui Hachimura gets ejected. Who knows if he doesn't? So the point of it is, it's like we don't know what's real yet for France and for Japan in particular. I still like I don't see Brazil going 0-3. I just don't. Like, I can't get there. I could be dead wrong here. Japan has Rui Hachimura now. Yuta Watanabe. Like, this is important. But Brazil typically rises at least one time in these tournaments.
Yeah.
And they've beaten better teams than Japan, even on the path to getting here.
Yeah. And I think the thing with Brazil, too, is that Brazil, they don't score well. Like they have a little bit of difficulty on the offense side of the ball. It's not really their strong suit. Japan, on the other hand, has given up 97 and 94 points. And like even when they were playing in the prelims, they were giving up massive scoring games. Obviously, some of that was to better opponents, like they played Germany in the preliminary games too. But at the same time, like if Brazil is getting going and they can actually make some buckets, I think that the benefit to them is so significant because like they're so annoying on defense. Like they are so pesky and they're going to get to play set defense rather than transition. I think that's a big bonus for them when Japan is really looking to run. They want to run. And if they don't have the ability to really stop Brazil, a team that like does normally struggle a little bit on the offensive side, I think you would have a little bit better of an uptick in terms of Brazil's defensive performance. They're going to be able to play a set defense and be like ready to go and lock in on whatever Japan's trying to throw at them.
I wanted the under. It's 166. It did go up. I was hoping it went up. I wanted to go up more. The problem is that though, like Japan's going to want to push, and if Brazil makes shots, then we're going to get an over. Like it just is what it is.
It just is.
Even if Brazil makes this like an ugly game, Japan's not going to defend that well. So if one team gets to 80, then all of a sudden you're sweating, you know, and it's like it's like just Brazil -2.5 is where I've already played it. That's just where I'm at. Like I just believe in that Brazilian national team. Maybe I'll be dead wrong. And look, again, March Madness, these things happen. So. But I'll say for now, we definitively have obviously France, Germany moving on. Brazil depends on point differential. If they at least cover, then the point differential could still be shitty. Let's actually move on to Group C because, again, we don't want to be here all night. And we're going to double back on Group B to see, like, all right, maybe is Brazil the 7th or 8th team or whatever the case may be, or 8th, I guess. But we'll see. Because I think 7's going to be from Group A. All right, Group C. And these two games are Saturday, and this is the end. First is going to be the United States versus Puerto Rico, which I am dreading that fucking game.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be that might be ugly. That might be real ugly.
you see the people watching this. You see the Puerto Rican flags behind me, like you know what it is. But oh man,
dude, here's my question for you, because like we know they're going to play Serbia. Serbia is obviously excellent. We've kind of seen them be like they're not playing Serbia. I'm sorry. They're playing the United States. It gets worse. I'm thinking about the other game. They're playing the United States. The United States has kind of struggled a little bit with these like fast teams that shoot a lot of threes.
I'm not doing this.
I'm not giving you any hope.
listen, they're not. It's not going to be 2004 all over again. Carlos Arroyo and Eddie Casiano and Daniel Santiago. That's probably not happening. I could see some success with the shooting. They even shot well against Serbia today. It's just they couldn't do anything else. Just the size is going to be too much. The athleticism is going to be too much. USA is going to beat them. It's going to be it should be a blowout. USA didn't cover today against. They did cover against Serbia with an epic shooting performance, and Serbia was also like very, 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 very under what you would expect. So that was like a weird shooting game in terms of variance. They did not cover against South Sudan though.
No,
so.
South Sudan.
What is the line for the Puerto Rico game?
I can tell. I think it was 31, but let me check for you.
31.5.
Yeah. That's ugly. That's ugly right there, buddy.
They cover.
Look, the funniest thing is winning. You can bet. This is hilarious. You can bet winning margin at FanDuel, and 30. Like some of the bands are so funny. It's like USA 11 plus minus 3,000. Like it's just like these lines are insane. Like if you bet, like you can't even bet like a real like margin here. Like like you can't even sell. You could bet actually either team at 7 points or less at 32-1, which I think is an interesting scenario there because you're like if you think it could be close, maybe you can grab Puerto Rico at plus 3,200.
Yeah, they're boned. It's a wrap. USA is gonna win this game, and by however many they feel like it.
I think Embiid is gonna smack. I think he's gonna smack. This is gonna be the game that he gets to play, and he is gonna put Condit in a bag.
George Condit's gonna foul the shit out. Listen, George. Again, I will say this again. George Condit is a good center. However, he's just not an NBA player at this stage. He's good in the G League. He's a double guy in the G League. Like legitimate double guy. Very good overseas in Puerto Rico, but
it's not gonna. Yeah, we don't need that. We're
spending too much time on this game. Let's go to Serbia, South Sudan, because that game's gonna be over, and Puerto Rico will be 0-3, and hopefully next cycle we'll get a victory. Julian Strother, Enrique Freeman, you guys better fucking play. Serbia, South Sudan.
This spread I think is fascinating.
This is the last game, so we're gonna know definitively what needs to happen for the winner of this game is going to advance because they're going to get second place in the group, but the loser could potentially advance depending on, again, point differential. Because right now Serbia is plus 15 and South Sudan is minus 6. Okay, so if Serbia beats South Sudan's ass, that's good for a Brazil or Japan, the winner of that game, and obviously whoever from Group A. And if South Sudan beats Serbia's ass, they're going to need to do it by a lot to knock out Serbia because Serbia is in plus territory. And while I have some thoughts about this game, I don't know if I don't even know if it's going to be a blowout. So give the line because the line kind of surprised me a little bit.
13.5, I think, is a fascinating line here. I'm a little like perplexed by it, but at the same time, I get it because like you can't go from like South Sudan when they played the United States for the first time, it was like 41 or 42.5. It moved down to 30.5. It went down to like 28.5. Obviously, like you're not going to put the line on Serbia the same that you're going to give to the United States. But it's like, are we still not giving South Sudan enough credit? Or is this just kind of one of those games where it's just like their like specific style of basketball gives Team USA a little bit of issues because like they're super athletic, they try hard, whereas like when you look at a Serbia, they're not the most athletic. They're very well coached, a lot of team basketball. Like is that really what the issue is here? I don't really know what to think about it.
I'm not sure stylistically that this is a great matchup for Serbia either. I think both teams, this is an interesting styles make fights type of game because Serbia has the experience, the execution, the ball movement. They know how to use their size. They're not long and lanky, but they're brutes. They're physical. They're strong. They're a strong team. They're a more disciplined rebounding team. South Sudan is more athletic. They are going to have hybrid defenders all over the floor. They're going to be competitive on the rebounds. They can shoot better than you think. Like they're capable. of sort of doing this or whatever the case may be and moving on, even with the loss. So the way it's most likely going to work here, because only 3 teams per group could advance. Like, I think that's another thing that's worth noting here, because the way this is structured is you take the 3 top teams, or the 3 third place teams rather, and you just take the top 2, and those 2 will get the 7 and 8 seed, if you will. So Group A, the point differential could work out in a way where it's like, oh, if Greece wins, then maybe everybody, but the last place team would just get eliminated. So here, I do think Serbia is going to win this game, but I'm that 13.5 for South Sudan to win. I mean, to cover is very tempting, because I actually think there could be some matchup issues here where we've seen athleticism bother Jokic sometimes, and then we've seen other times where it just doesn't matter. He'll put you under the basket because he's so much stronger than you. And it doesn't have to be a Jokic performance to me, but to me, Serbia has to shoot the ball well, because South Sudan, sneaky good 3-point shooting team.
Yeah, they really have given a lot of teams some difficulty here just because of the 3-point shooting. And you have guys that just will just jack up the shots. Like, they are just like, yo, we're putting up buckets. Like, we don't really care. I do think that it is a little bit notable, though, that in today's game, I think Serbia must feel comfortable because they didn't really try to run up the score at the end of that game. Like, they did, but they didn't put Jokic back in. They weren't like, oh, like, let's go and win by 60. Like, they almost did, but like, they won by 51. But like, they really didn't, like, they didn't totally put the gas down, because like Jokic came out with like 7 minutes to go or 8 minutes to go in the game, I think. Jokic only played today. Let's see. He only played 23 minutes. That's not a lot of time. So like, I think Serbia must feel comfortable against South Sudan to have sat Jokic that much, because like, I agree, like the way that if you look at everything, and Serbia knew this because they played, based on the timing pretty much of when they played, that the point differential probably would matter to some degree, like if they were to lose to South Sudan in this matchup. So I think they must feel comfortable.
If you think Serbia is going to win, is it better to take a shot at a future on them to like make maybe the semis, or are the brackets going to be, because they're not going to win the group, too scrambled in a way where it's like, don't even bother, just actually bet them in this game or something along those lines?
I'm not super interested in laying the 13.5, because like, I think they also recognize, I think there's 2 things that are going on. One, if they win the game, they won't play Team USA immediately anyway. I think that they're aware of the fact that they probably have to play Team USA at some point in order to win a gold or win a medal, like whatever. But I think and the way that they kind of lay out the games is funky, I think, because they try to not have duplicate matchups from like the first round, like the group stage, I think. I think that you're better off just waiting and seeing what the matchups are with Serbia and trying to bet into it then. Because I think that the way the line is, it's already kind of cooked in that they're going to win. Whereas the Germany-France line, I think the Germany-France line is too close. So you're getting a little bit of extra value on Germany there, like at like the plus 130 or so. Whereas Serbia, I think like if they were to lose somehow, then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, like you're going to have to play a top team immediately at that bottom part of the bracket.
Okay, so we have Canada, Australia, Spain moving on. We have Germany, France moving on. We have the United States. Are we both picking, not betting wise? Do we just think Serbia wins this game?
I think Serbia wins the game.
Okay. The interesting thing is we're gonna know exactly how many points they need. Because this is important too, because Germany's point differential, which we mentioned earlier, is 33. France is 16 plus. And Serbia is plus 15. So let's say Germany beats France, then all of a sudden Serbia can just slide above them in point differential. And then we'll see what happens with the other group. But if Canada just wins, it won't matter. And then Serbia all of a sudden becomes the highest ranked second place team. That's entirely in reach. if Germany beats France. If France beats Germany, it depends on by how much. And then Serbia is going to want to get to a certain point in terms of like, hey, we reached this point differential, whatever. Whatever the matchup is going to be from there. Like a lot of it is difficult to project exactly how it's going to happen, but we're going to know what the requirements are. And if you're South Sudan, obviously you just want to win the game. Serbia is not a team that you could be like, oh, we're going to beat them by 30.
Like you just gotta win. You just gotta win. Like you're not worried about it otherwise. But
which I think plus 13.5 is extremely tempting. I don't know if I have the balls to do it.
I just feel very chalky right now because I'm just kind of in the like, I think all the favorites win. Like I'm not like
which means somebody is going to break through.
And like admittedly, we haven't seen a ton of upsets. We've seen some almost. We've seen a couple actual upsets. Yeah. But like really, I think has the only real upset been Greece losing to Spain, and Greece was like a 3-point favorite.
4.5.
Yeah,
I think it was.
So like there really hasn't been, and the Puerto Rico South Sudan game was like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So like we really haven't.
South Sudan ended up being the favorite though.
Yeah, so we really haven't seen an upset yet. Like we've seen one upset, and it was like not an upset. It was just the dog won, and they were like a 4-point dog. So
underdogs have covered. I'll say that much.
They've covered well, but they haven't. That's about it. Like
yeah. Underdogs have covered, which is another reason why I that plus 13.5. And I wonder if the line is going to change once we know like right before tip, once we know the scenario, like Serbia needs this much to do to get to this spot, like get to, the top second seed spot, or South Sudan needs this or whatever to sort of survive. Because that's the other thing we have to take into account. If Serbia is up by double digits late, let's say it's 87-74 with 2:13 left, South Sudan is then incentivized, and Serbia looks like at that point, they can get the top
we're good.
Second place.
Yeah.
South Sudan is still incentivized not only to try to like pull off a miracle and come back and win the game, but they want to qualify. We're going to know exactly how many points they need to hang ahead of, say, Brazil, the Brazil-Japan winner. Because it looks like whoever from Group A is in third is just going to advance because all the games have been close, unless there's a blowout later this week. So the way I think it's going to play out is Canada, Australia, Spain, just a prediction. Germany, France, USA, Serbia, and then it'll come down to the Brazil-Japan winner, which I think will be Brazil, but listen, if Japan wins, it wouldn't shock me. I'm just taking Brazil in that one.
Yeah.
And the inside track on point differential there is actually with South Sudan right now.
Yeah.
Because South Sudan is -6 and both Brazil and Japan are in 20s. So if the winner of that is going to advance,
they got to win.
They got to win big.
They got to win big, which makes it very difficult.
Or Serbia has to win big.
Yeah.
Or they can meet in the middle.
Yeah, where it kind of helps each other. But like I think then you almost should just I would imagine that your best scenario is to kind of parlay it in like a funky way. Like if you parlay like Brazil -10 with Serbia minus like 20, then it kind of gets you there. Like I think there's like right now, like the price for Brazil is plus 175 to make the quarters, and for Japan it's plus 390. I would imagine, and like I'm kind of shoot from the hip here, I would imagine that if you take some of these alts, you're gonna create a scenario where that's probably what happens. It's tough because like there's definitely some moving parts, but I think you're gonna get a better number. You're definitely gonna get a better number than like plus 175. Like you're gonna get a better number than plus 175 for Brazil to win by 10. Period. And like unless you think Brazil or Japan wins by like 2, and then Serbia wins by like 40, which I don't think, based on everything that we've seen South Sudan do, is likely. So that's kind of my piece there. And then obviously the only other scenario is that Spain gets absolutely waxed, but I don't think that Canada is not super incentivized to do so.
If Serbia just covers, So let's say they win by exactly 14 and just covers the 13.5. South Sudan is then minus 20 in the hole.
Yeah.
So Brazil or Japan, because they're minus 25 and 24 respectively,
Need to win by
would
like
they would only
6.
need to win by a few points.
Yeah. So that like I think that's maybe that's how you do it. Like you could just like get like a plus or like a -7 or something like that. Like I think you would be getting a better number than plus 175 or
Yeah.
plus 390.
Yeah.
Realistically,
You could even do like,
I mean, you could even just bet that. Like you don't even have to do the Serbia part of it. Like you would just bet that and just say like Brazil or Japan basically has to win by X if they want to make the quarters, and just bet that.
I think the alt you probably want to look at, if you want like a specific number, I would probably just look at like 9.5,
Yeah, like
like
double digit win.
double digits.
Yeah,
Yeah, to win by or to win by 10 or more, or some
yeah,
books
one of
have like,
those like the margins or something
yeah,
like that. Yeah,
some books have like 11 or more because they have 1 through 10 and then 11 plus, like something like that. Even though like that game also could be very close, it's projected to be very close. But these are sort of the scenarios. Because I think Serbia, like, man, it's actually it's crazy because it's not that many points that they need to blow out, so to speak, to eliminate South Sudan. So if that game is a close game, that bones Brazil or Japan, barring a blowout, and we'll see what happens in Group A. So that's pretty much how I personally think it's going to play out. Or not think, but I mean that's just what I feel like we're heading towards. We know Canada, we know Germany, we know France, and we know the United States are going to advance. The Serbia South Sudan winner is going to definitely advance. The Brazil Japan winner will have a shot. And then a Group A, we'll see. But if Australia wins, they're in. If Greece beats them, TBD. And if Spain beats Canada, they're in along with Canada. So, Group A, barring any blowouts, expect 3 teams to emerge
yeah,
from that group. Unless the other 2 games are just, man, there's just a lot of different scenarios here. But this is why we're doing this. So,
yeah.
I think we're good. We went a little longer than planned, of course, which is typically the case.
Of course.
Yes. We're gonna look ahead at some other parts of this moving forward, because before knockout stage, um, we'll probably hop on one of our YouTubes, and also buckets. We're gonna do buckets.
Yeah, we're having a good
So,
time.
yeah, I swear to God, I owe myself a vacation when the Olympics are over.
I know we both need it. We both need it. We're gonna go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell Carlos Arroyo, add some fucking size to this national team, man. Oh, if Jose Alvarado doesn't turn his ankle in that game, who knows?
Yeah, maybe
Who
there's a
knows?
chance.
Who
There is
knows?
a chance.
Who knows? We weren't gonna beat Team USA though. Again, size. All right, that's JoeDellera. Follow his work on YouTube, on Twitter, also Action Network. Subscribe to the Cast That podcast. We're working on a crossover, so we'll have details on that, a formal crossover. And I'm Bryan Fonseca. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow my work at Action Network and elsewhere. You can Google that. Apparently my face comes out now, which is fucking weird. I Googled myself the other day, and it's like I have a headshot and it says journalist, and I was like, whoa, we made it.
That's something else, man. Yeah, mine says writer. Damn,
Crazy.
that's crazy. It doesn't. I'm not a lawyer anymore either. Writer.
That's crazy.
That's
All right,
funny.
thanks everybody.